सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज.
The miseries of material existence and the most hopeless conditions of life is the best possible opportunity to turn to God.
You're listening to Bare Knuckle Bhakti Shorties on the Bhakti Recovery Podcast with Jiva G, coming at you every Monday with a little spiritual something. Good morning, my friends. I really want to pick some stuff apart here. And I want to emphasize the 100% importance, if not 108% importance of emotional intelligence when it comes to our Krishna consciousness and when it comes to our sobriety. And I always land in the same spot on this issue, or on this topic. The topic is, if you have complicated emotional transmitters or connections, or you come from dysfunction, and I don't care what you say. All of you can say, some of you can say, I don't come from a dysfunctional family. You come from a dysfunctional society. This society is incredibly dysfunctional. And it really has a lot of, most of its importance is self-importance, self-independence, money, and survival. That is fact. So dysfunction applies to all of us. Some more than others, of course. So when we're talking about, let's take one topic for now, and we go on to some others. Let's take Vaishnav Aparat, offending another devotee. Let's just say offending anyone. I don't care who. Being offensive to anyone. It's not exclusive to being a devotee. So the chances of you being offensive to a devotee are more if you live in a temple, and less if you're living in the outside world, doing more household things, working, interacting with your family, friends, whatever it is. There's always going to be a chance of offenses. And this is just one of these topics about how emotional intelligence is key to becoming purer and purer. So why would we offend somebody? Why would any of us be offensive? Just sit that for a second. Why would, ask yourself right now, why would I personally want to offend anyone? You can even put a D in the front of that. Defend yourself. Because that's what it usually is. Being offensive is often because you're being defensive. And then you offend. But what does that stem from? Where does that come from? Where do those offenses come from? So I'll share a couple of mine. Fear. That's a huge one. Probably the biggest one. Fear. Fear of not getting what I want. Fear of losing what I have. That could be offensive. I could offend because of fear. And the thing about it is, if I'm not emotionally intelligent enough to understand that there's nothing to be afraid of, then I'm going to continue doing that. And how do I become emotionally intelligent? Because I have to put in the work. And how do I put in the work? You do a program and you become self-conscious. It is the most important thing. If we are not aware, and I don't mean self-obsessed, and I don't mean self-absorbed, and I don't mean self-centered, I just mean aware of interaction and then our reaction to that interaction and what is behind that. That is one very simple way to figure out why you may be offensive or defensive. You're in a situation, any situation, where you're amongst people. It could be the smallest thing or the biggest thing. Somebody offends you. Somebody says to you, "You're in a cult." How are you going to react? Many people would say, yeah, you have to defend Krishna consciousness. And I mean, there are people who want to do that, and great, do it. I don't feel the need to defend my beliefs. My beliefs are just my beliefs. Whether you believe them or not does not affect me in any way. I think a big one also is envy or pride. Let's take envy. For a lot of people, envy is a big one, or jealousy. They're cousins. Envy is not a bad thing if it's envy towards Krishna consciousness or envy towards somebody who has got multiple years of sobriety. As long as it's turned into something appreciative. Wow, I envy them. They've got 25 years sobriety. They've done the work, they've done this. And look at this devotee. So knowledgeable. It becomes a problem when it turns into unhealthy jealousy, because our psyche is not in tune with Krishna consciousness, or good orderly direction, if you wish. And that is a sign of that's not intelligent. It's not emotional intelligence. It's so important. If we don't recognize these things, we can't correct them. Or we could act that way. We hear things in Krishna consciousness. We hear things in the program. In our program, we have a 8th and 9th step to make our apologies, make a list, and to make our apologies of any offenses that we've done. Our amends, which is not an apology, sorry. Definitely want to retract that word. An amends. A living amends. That's what we do. And only by doing stuff like that can we accumulate intelligence. I mean, there are some people who are born without intelligence, given. I get it. But nobody's born without an ego. Nobody. Sorry. That's fact. Or maybe they are, and I don't know. I just don't know them. So let me retract that as well. The frick do I know? Let's put it this way. I don't know if I know anyone who doesn't have an ego. And if I did, they wouldn't tell me. They wouldn't tell anyone anyway. So anyway, that's totally a side subject now. Self-awareness. Okay, wait. Let me rephrase this. The part and parcel that belongs to Krishna should always be in the forefront. That we are part and parcel of the Supreme. That we are part and parcel. And that place, that partial exists in us. We're just covered, right? When we're situated in that knowledge and doing things in order to keep that connection alive as much as possible, as often as possible, as strong as possible. And then we turn our self-awareness to our material, emotional state of being. We will see how faulty we are. Every one of us. Every single one of us. Emotional intelligence. Some fairy doesn't come along and just frickin' tap you on the head and be like, you're emotionally intelligent now, and now you're going to be able to see everything. That doesn't happen. It is a process, and if you are absolutely determined to finish that process, you will see that there is no end. And so here's the thing, not to get obsessed about it or OCD about it, but just be gently aware. Oh, that was a fear-based reaction. I'm sorry. How can I do better? Tell ourselves, do better. Jiva, do better. Think higher, do better. But how am I going to come to these conclusions if I'm not aware? It's so important. I mean, all of our everything that we do in working the program, everything we do in Krishna consciousness, those are all steps towards that. Are they not? And if not, then what the hell are we doing? What are we doing? I mean, I know many people who are so situated in Krishna consciousness, and some of them I this is really without judgment. It's just acknowledgement, and what I see is that they don't have a lot of emotional intelligence. I'm not criticizing anyone. It isn't in their realm of thought, or it isn't in their way of thinking, or their way of worshiping, or their way of being Krishna conscious. And that's fine. Maybe they don't have that. Maybe they don't have that affliction. It's not for me to decide that. But with the people with whom I work, with whom I associate with, that's not going to be those are usually not the people I want to be hanging around with, only because it's not in my tribe. It just isn't. I want people who are aware around me, who are saying to themselves, do better, think higher. I want people who tell me the truth about where they are in their spiritual life. I don't want dogma in my life. I mean, I have people who are dogmatic in my life, and they're perfectly fine, but I'm not like hanging with them all the time. It's fine. There's room for everybody here, and we can learn from all of it. That's the thing. When I talk about I don't talk about people. When I'm talking about that, I'm talking about a characteristic that somebody possesses in their material body, in their emotional household. And it's not about the person, it's about that particular character, flaw, or blind spot, if you will. I want people who's going to call me on my BS. I want people who are not going to co-sign my BS. I'm willing to listen to loving criticism, even when it's mean sometimes. I have a mentor who tear me I'm not even going to say it, but I can accept. It's okay. And you know what? This person's not always right, but I take what I need and take what I can hear in the moment, and then I leave the rest. I don't have to get angry or defensive. There's a lesson in everything. If I'm willing to step back a little bit and let Krishna listen first. Yeah? I'm thinking, what makes us good devotees? What makes it? Chanting 16 rounds and practicing the 4 regs, does that make us a good devotee? Is that enough for you? Can you even do that? What makes you a good devotee? We have the rule book, right? We have everything in front of us. Here's the formula, just do it. Formula is perfect. I just would like to have some addendums. Because I think we can't practice the formula if our minds are so begarbled. That's not even a word, I just made that up. With all kinds of 7 deadly sins, right? How are we supposed to practice those things if we're not clean in our heads, in our hearts, which I believe to be a lifelong process. I don't believe my heart is good. Let me rephrase that. I believe my heart is good, but I don't believe my heart is all good. There's a lot of things that are covered with misconceptions, false ego. So I can chant 16 rounds. Easy peasy, right? Simple. You just chant 16 rounds. And you don't want to, you just do it anyway. But why? Does that make me a better devotee? If I'm not connecting with those holy names, does that make me a better devotee? Does it make me more clean than you? Because I chant my 16 rounds? And please don't misunderstand me. I think chanting 16 rounds is amazing. I'm just trying to make a point. Always chant the rounds. Doesn't matter. If you're doing it, that's what they say. It doesn't really matter. Just do it, right? Try to do it without offenses. I don't think I've ever chanted 16 rounds without an offense. Why? Because I'm aware. Why am I aware? Not just because I worked to be aware. It's because it's sort of my natural inclination. I'm just one of those people. I like to be aware. It's not that I'm 100% aware. I'm still learning. But I'm aware of that particular psychological wheelhouse within my household of different functions in this meat puppet I'm walking in. Wow, it's starting to rain, guys. And I'm out for my walk. And I don't care. It's so nice out. Fresh morning air. It's a Sunday morning. Nobody's here. I want the best out of life. And I have to define what that means. What does it mean for me to want the best out of life? It means to be as close to Krishna as I possibly can. And his devotees. And that's actually in my wheelhouse. I get along splendidly with everybody. And so here's the ... Except for when they cross me the wrong way. That's when it starts. That's when the self-awareness has to start. That's when I have to check myself. Oh, they said this. This was offensive to me. Now, how am I going to rebuke? How am I going to react? What am I going to say? Am I let it slide? Am I going to correct them? Am I going to get defensive? Depending on the offense, am I going to flip? Am I going to go berserk? I mean, that doesn't really happen anymore, unless it's life-threatening for me. So I've been through that stage, thank God. Am I going to be full of self-deprecation? These are all of the choices that I have, because yes, I used to feel like I didn't have a choice, and actually I didn't, because I was ruled by my emotions. Ruled. I want this, I did this. Consequences, I don't care. I want this, I got it. I am not ruled by my emotions anymore. I get pulled around, still shoved around a little bit by my emotions, but my life is very much situated in Krishna consciousness and very much situated in a 12-step program. And because of that, I've learned sometimes the excruciatingly hard way. Sometimes the lessons came easier. How to be aware, practice principles in my affairs, do better, think higher. And today, and that's the thing, I'm not saying here like, look, now I'm this great. No. I'm saying I have a choice today. And I'm not saying that I always choose the high road. I choose sometimes a lot of things, but I know it's a choice. I don't have to be dragged around by my hair. And if I do, it's very short. So it's progress, my friends. Progress. Think about it, you guys. Why don't you just do this week? And I think this would be a really nice thing to do, and a really nice exercise for everybody. The next time you come into an uncomfortable situation, in interaction with others or principles, whatever it is, I want you to just stop and think about what that's triggering in you. Think about why. Ask it if it's really true. Is it fact or feeling? And then I want you to step back and make a decision, a free decision, an unemotional free decision in higher thinking and telling yourself, do better. Do that this week. Do that this week. I'm going to. Actually, I already did this week. I did better this week. I chose higher, to think higher, and I chose better choices this week. And how did I get there? And here's the interesting thing. How did I get there? How did I get there before I got pulled by my hair by my own feelings? I talked to people. I talked to people who have experienced strength and hope. I prayed. I read literature about it. And I asked myself, Krishna was standing right beside me. What would he want from me? What's the right thing to do? People, you have a choice. You really do. Just use the choice. And if you don't think higher, do better. Forgive yourself and do it the next time. The most important thing is keep going. That's what I got to tell myself. Keep going. All right, I think I got that now, and I'm done with this shorty, and I love you guys. And I'll see you next week. Again, sorry for the late shorty. There were technical issues, so I'm sure you're hearing this by Wednesday. So, yeah, maybe even Thursday. Again, apologies. I do have a couple of announcements. Super Soul Farm, last weekend in August. Super Soul Farm, the last weekend in August. We're having a retreat. It is going to be an experience of self-aware Krishna consciousness, not just for alcoholics and addicts. This is for people who have conditionings and stand there and say, yeah, I have conditionings. These are people who get beaten up by Maya and don't want to be anymore. That's who is going to be participating. And I invite all of you to come. Sign up. End of August. It's going to be another amazing retreat full of lessons, association, Krishna's love, and kirtan, and workshops. And then we get to meet in real person and spend time together as a Sangha. So sign up. I'm really looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to serving you. I'm looking forward to thinking higher and doing better together. All right, everyone. Hare Krishna. Have a good week. Thanks for listening. I hope you liked the Monday Shorties. Don't forget to check out our full-length episodes on Thursdays. If you like what you heard, spread the word. Peace out.
सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज.
The miseries of material existence and the most hopeless conditions of life is the best possible opportunity to turn to God.